Спасибо большое. Здравствуйте, очень приятно. And that's about the end of my Russian. As usual. So, may I begin by saying what an honor it is to be here today at the Stockholm School of Economics, speaking to a special audience such as yourselves. I think we can have a lot of good fun and good learning in this session. So I had this whole motivational thing that I wanted to start with, and I wanted to be all positive and inspirational, and then I spent 2 weeks in St. Petersburg. And somewhere in between the rain and the clouds and the gray weather and nobody smiling to me on the streets, I had to actually go back into my own material and remind myself what it means to think positively. So I sympathize with you. I understand a little bit, at least, of what you contend with on a day-to-day, week-by-week, month-by-month basis. The good news is, the tools and techniques that I want to share with you today work wherever you are. They are universal truths. So whether you're in Africa or Mumbai, the same things, the same principles still govern all of us because we are all human beings. So my name is Tah Riq. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a biologist, a metaphysician, neurospecialist. What I am is a person who began searching for a way to create a new life, to step out of my old paradigm, my old conflicting and confining mindset, and step into something that I felt was much truer of myself. Through doing that, I've uncovered and researched the work of some really great minds out there to put together the information that I present here today. And through going through this information and going through these steps in my own life, I began to notice things dramatically change. And so that is why I'm here to share with you today. So what I've noticed through doing this kind of work is my mission is a transformation switch. I've had people tell me before, oh, I saw this talk you did, it was really inspirational, or I read that article you wrote and it was inspirational, and I felt like my true calling is to be able to be a catalyst for other people's transformation and change. If I can help you, if I can shift you just 8 degrees in the right direction, that might be enough to create an entirely different future. And because of my understanding for the way universal laws work and the way energetic exchanges take place, I know that in order to receive, I must give. And that's what I'm doing here. My part of the bargain with the universe is that I would share this information with as many people as are willing and ready to listen. And through doing this, I begin the exchange, and the universe will then give me the things that I ask for. So that's what I'm here doing for you today. And the methods and tools that I share today really have dramatically changed my life. I don't just mean like I feel a little bit better, or I think a little bit more positively. I mean, my metabolic age is half what it used to be. I now metabolize food like a teenager instead of somebody in my early 30s, as it should be. I've gone from being somebody who puts on fat easily to being somebody who puts on muscle easily. I've gone from somebody who began just like anybody else to being able to play guitar, to being able to write poetry, enter poetry slams. I use my life as an example that whatever you want to become good at, you can. And I've made it my life's work to reverse engineer skill sets and prove that you can become good at anything, whether it's parkour or flamenco guitar or anything like that. Okay, so today, what I ask for is not your money. The profit or gain is not mine, it's yours. I'm here essentially for you. And I ask for something a lot more valuable, which is your time, your imagination, your willingness to believe some crazy out there theories, at least to some it might seem that way, and your willingness to participate and come at this with a clean and open mind. Do I have that from you?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. I want everybody to stand up for a moment, please. And those who are joining us on our webinar, you can also do the same. Okay, can I have everybody just relax their shoulders, stand nice and tall, shoulders back. Close your eyes, please. I want you to imagine any of the doubts, stresses, worries, niggling thoughts, things that you have to do this evening, tomorrow morning, all of that. Imagine those as little particles of debris or dust or fuzzy little bits of dirt, just kind of clouding your general vision of things. Good. Now I want you to imagine a cold bucket of cold water that's going to pour down into your head, fill you up, and wash away all of those thoughts, leaving everything nice and clear. Great. Now I want you to open your eyes, look to the person next to you, and say, I'm ready for this.
I'm ready.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, guys. You can take a seat. Okay, good. Energy's already a little bit more elevated. That's great. So, the information I'm going to share here is not my own. Some of it is, of course, through trial, error, my own experience, etc. However, most of it has been cultivated and collected from some of the finest minds on the subject of manifestation, law of attraction, universal theory, etc. So these are some of the people that we're learning from: Abraham Hicks, Stuart Wilde, Neil Donald Walsh, Rhonda Byrne, Reverend Ike, Kevin Trudeau, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Michael Lossier, Napoleon Hill, James Allen, R.A. Jarrett, Wallace D. Wattles, and quite a few others. So if you don't like what I'm presenting here today, or if it conflicts with your beliefs somehow, feel free to take it up with them. Okay, so today we're going to be filling in the missing pieces on the manifestation puzzle. Who here has read or found or discovered something like The Secret, some article on how to think positively and create your dreams? Can I have a show of hands, please? Raise them high. Okay, so a good chunk of the people in the room. Now tell me if it was like me. You got frustrated because these books were very well written and beautiful prose in English or Russian, and then you read them and you're like, great, now what do I do? Where are the steps? Where's step number 1? Where's step number 2? You know, I got really frustrated that all of these spiritual philosophers were expounding on these theories, and it was beautiful, and it did make me feel a little bit better to read them, but then I was like, and now what? So I made it my mission to collect the practical steps, things that people could actually do, things that were proven by the masters that have come before us, and collected them all into a single workshop, essentially. And we have limited time today, so we're going to race through a whole bunch of stuff. But if anybody wishes to learn more or go deeper into this, feel free to contact me after, and I'm sure we can go even deeper. So you'll see that tools and techniques is only one part of the puzzle. We have positive thought, belief, and positive feeling, positive speech. So the reason that that's up there is to show you that without the belief, all of the tools and techniques in the world will not work. Your belief, your ability to create with your mind, both positively and negatively, is stronger than any chemical, is stronger than any medicine, so much so that you can even have a child who's asthmatic. You give them medicine that makes them have a worse case of asthma, but you tell them that it's a cure, and their asthma will begin to improve. There's a whole bunch of new science regarding this. The wonderful teacher, Dr. Joe Dispenza, wrote a book recently called You Are the Placebo. He healed himself from 6 or 7 broken vertebrae through the power of his mind alone, and then made it his life's mission to share this with others. So all of the research and scientific data is out there, and if you want to back it up after, you can feel free to do your own research. It's important that you believe that it's possible, because that belief will allow all of the tools and techniques to work. So in the wise words of Henry Ford, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Yeah, next. Okay, so to understand why I'm here today and why I'm doing this work, I need to share a little bit about my story. Can we try and play that video? Will it play? Oh, if it doesn't, it's okay. It's not essential. So that was a little video of me, 7 years old, running around my house wearing a superhero outfit with a red cape and stuff. I genuinely did believe I was a superhero. I thought I was super kid. I thought the only reason I couldn't fly was because I was still young and my powers would come to me as I got older. And nobody told me I was wrong. Everybody encouraged me. Everybody said, yeah, good for you. Jump off that sofa. And so I really thought I was super. And as a result of that belief, I won almost every competition I entered into, whether it was a national poetry competition, a district art competition, a state championship for karate, anything. And then something happened that changed all of that. You see, as a family, we were living in America. I had a very happy childhood, rollerblading, riding my bike, and skating and swimming. And then my father got offered a job back in Jordan, and it made sense for the family to move, but we had to do it very quickly. So almost overnight, I had to leave all of my friends, I had to leave my school, I had to leave my way of thinking, my life. In fact, I feel like I left my very identity behind. So now I'm back in Jordan, I'm 10 years old, and I'm surrounded by what I can only describe to a creative kid like me, who was always drawing and painting and creating new card games and things like that, as a mentally imprisoning culture. I remember I was in my first religion class and I drew something, and I showed it to the teacher and I said, look what I created. He was like, no, you do not create. You are not a creator. And I was like, but it's my ideas. I just drew them. No, these are not your ideas. These are God's ideas. You do not have ideas of your own. What do you say to that as a 10-year-old kid? I found that this permeated the rest of the culture. Extended family members, right? If somebody wasn't good at something, if they tried and tried and tried and tried, you'd hear the aunts and the aunties say, maybe you're not good at this. It is not God's will. And then if that person finally succeeded and became good at that, they would say, God must have changed his mind. So no matter whether you were good, bad, failure, success, it was never yours to own. You couldn't own your own success, you couldn't own your own failure, and this led to years and years of being in victim mode, where life just happened to you. Life was preordained, pre-written, nothing you could do about it, it was all done, said, stamped, sealed, delivered. That's your life, nothing I can do to change it. And so life began to change quite dramatically for the worse. So I was teased in Jordan for not being able to speak Arabic properly. I couldn't roll my R's, and my name has an R in it, so you can imagine what fun that was. I started to gain weight. I started to become depressed. My poetry began like a diary of pain. And then we moved to the UK. And now in England was a whole different kind of culture shock. So I go from being this prepubescent teen who was playing with action figures and things, to being in the UK surrounded by 14-year-old boys and girls who were talking about smoking and sex and drugs. And I was like, why is everybody trying to be an adult? Can't we just be kids a little bit longer? Like, why is everybody in such a rush? And I couldn't keep up, and it led to years of discord and disharmony, and I gained more weight, and I was more unhappy, and that led to a picture of health. So I began drinking quite a lot when I was 16 years old, because that's what everybody else did, so it seemed to make sense. And I did what everybody said I should. I went to school, I got good grades. I went to college, I got good grades. I went to university, I got good grades. I did my degree, I did my master's. I did all of that education dance that everybody said I should do. And then I had no money and no job. And so I just increased the hours at my part-time job, which was selling computers. And all of a sudden, I'm a computer salesperson, waking up every morning, putting on a purple uniform, and selling Pentiums. And you can see how happy I looked right there, right? I remember thinking, as I would button up my purple uniform in the morning, like, what happened to all of my childhood dreams? What happened to the super kid? What happened to drawing and painting? Like, surely this can't be everything that life has in store for me. And so I began to search. And the search was, I'm ready for something new. Can somebody show me a way out? I need some kind of sign, something. And I remember at the time, my thoughts were, I don't want to be here, I don't want to be here, I don't want to be here, I don't want to be here. And then my mom called me and she said, hey, have you heard of The Secret? And so I read The Secret, and even though there wasn't a very clear how-to, I understood that, okay, maybe it seems that there's something else out there, that there's people who are doing this. You know what? I'm so ready to believe in something new. I'm just going to take everything on faith, pretend everything works, and I'm just going to act from that mindset. Now, I used to go home and play video games to kind of escape the world of work. And the game that I got hooked on was Assassin's Creed, which the video won't play, but you can see there's a guy in a hoodie there. And for most people, this would just be a game, just a fun video game. But the universe has a way of nudging you towards things, and the more your awareness grows, the more you notice it for what it is, which is a sign. My mother is Christian, father is Muslim. The character in the game, Altair, father Muslim, mother Christian. We can't play the clip, unfortunately, but he sounds exactly like me. Actually, we might be able to play the clip, could we? Okay. No worries. Sounds so much like me that even my mother says, is that you talking? So, in the game, this character does parkour, which is running up walls and jumping off roofs and things like that. And I was like, wow, he looks so free. Imagine if I could do that. And I began to train parkour for real. And so I would go to work and I would dive over pallets of computers and I would balance on railings in my break times. And it sounds silly, but what that led to was a moment where I was standing on top of a church roof, and in the game, there's a famous move called the leap of faith, where the assassin just jumps and just surrenders. And I thought, wow, what if I could jump off this roof? What if I had the guts to do that and land and roll and stand back up? That would be a true leap of faith. Quitting my job would also be a leap of faith. What if the day that I jump off this roof, I quit my job? 2 days later, I jumped off the roof. I landed, I rolled, I stood back up. I realized I was okay. I thought, well, I'll probably land okay out of quitting the job too. So I walked into work the next day. I resigned first thing in the morning. I was in such a good mood. I felt so good that 3 hours later, I got offered a job by a customer, Kane Kramer. Thank you, Kane, if you listen to this one day, who's the inventor of the world's first digital audio player. And he offered me a job to be his animator, which was actually what my degree and my master's was in, on the same day that I quit, just because I was feeling different. Interestingly, 2 months before that, I changed my password at work to I'm leaving soon. So instead of thinking, I don't want to be here, I don't want to be here, I don't want to be here, I was thinking, I'm leaving soon, I'm leaving soon, I'm leaving soon. So I worked for him for a while, I worked for another branding company for a while, and then it was time for a different leap of faith. I lost my job and house overnight because the company downsized, and all of a sudden I had nothing again. But this time I had learned from my previous experience, and I took that as a sign to take another leap of faith. And I took a few things that I had with me, and I moved to Bali. And it just left that life behind. And that was another leap of faith. And that then became a talk, which was my TEDx talk, taking a leap from desktop to rooftop. Now, since then, there's been other leap of faiths, like quitting alcohol, like going vegetarian, because I believe, we can go to the next slide. Yeah, leap of faith, there you go. Next slide. Because I believe that if you want things in your life to change, you have to change things in your life. A lot of people want things to change. They want to have a different life, but they're not willing to become a different person. If you stay the same person, you'll continue to have the same life. It's really as simple as that. And you can trick yourself. You can wear like bright colored socks, and I would never do that. It's so out of my personality. That's exactly the way that you want to be thinking if you want to step into new modes of being. So in order to grow your belief, we're just going to go quickly through a few successful examples of people who, when you really get down into it, are all saying the same thing. Andrew Carnegie. Oh, we can barely read that, actually. Here, let me read it for you from here. Yeah, so no man can become rich without himself enriching others. No, I can't read it there. Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's the same process I used in bodybuilding. What you do is create a vision of what you want, of who you want to be, and then live that picture as if it were already true. Jim Carrey's one is particularly interesting because what he did was he would park his car under the Hollywood sign, and he would do this every single night, and he would just visualize directors saying, "I'm interested in you." He would visualize people he respected in the industry saying, "I like your work." He had nothing at the time. He was completely broken. At the time, he wrote himself a check for $10 million and dated it 1995, Thanksgiving. He gave himself 3 years, right, from a place of having nothing. And he said, "For acting services rendered." 3 years goes by. Just before Thanksgiving, he receives a call that he was going to be starring in Dumb and Dumber, and his fee was $10 million. So when you start to get into this and you see more and more examples, we can go to the next slide, you see that the same thing is echoing through different teachers, through different voices, and through different perspectives, but it's all saying the same thing. A few more current examples. We have Lady Gaga, who had a mantra. Stop there, please. Lady Gaga has a mantra that, I am fame, I am success, and she would repeat that all the time. Soulja Boy, who is, this guy over here, whether you like his music or not, he wrote down back when he was in school that I would create a dance that everybody would do. And I remember growing up in the UK, and everybody would do the Soulja Boy in the clubs. So it came true because he wrote it down and because he worked towards it. So Oprah and so on, we can go on. There's so many examples out there. Okay, so is everybody feeling a little bit like their belief has grown? Can we have a response? Yes? Come on, guys.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Remember, this works with your participation. All right, so now we can start to get a little bit more detailed. So microscience in our vibrational world. So we all know that everything is energy. Everything is just particles that are held with binding forces, and they're vibrating and oscillating at different frequencies. So everything is basically a non-solid. Most of it is just empty space. It's just the binding forces that hold everything in place. This is very important to understand because it is how we transmit and receive with our minds and with our hearts. So I want you to imagine that the process that things take to go from being a thought to being something that you can hold in your hand is the same process that air takes to become ice. So air, which is the thought form, is basically in the quantum field. It's those ideas, those concepts that you have in your imagination. They haven't yet realized, but they are there because they're already an idea. And an idea is measurable. An idea has weight, scientifically speaking. So when you have something which is in the quantum field, which is the fifth dimension, as you start to feed it with more thought, it starts to grow more dense. And then it begins to come down. The same way that air will come down into water. The way that you notice this in your life is you start to see evidence of things moving towards what you want. For example, if you want a car, you'll see more magazine articles of that car. Or you'll notice that your friends your friend's friend bought a similar car to the one that you want, or little references, little signs, little breadcrumbs from the universe to say it's already begun. And then eventually it solidifies enough to become ice, which is when it manifests into physical reality, which is when you have it. So we are creators. The Godical theory is if every cell in your body is a living conscious entity, right? All our cells are alive. There's a difference between a dead cell and a living cell. So if all of the cells in your body make up you, and you are the collective consciousness of all of your cells, you are the sum of all of those parts, then what if we are all cells in a greater collective consciousness, in the same way that the cells are a part of our body? And if this consciousness is the same entity that is the creator of worlds and so on, then it would make sense that we as fragments of that collective entity also have access to, if not the same, similar creative power, because we are all fragments of that same creative consciousness. So bear with me. I understand it's a little bit far-fetched at times. I want you to think of your thoughts as electric and your feelings as magnetic. Combine that and you have your electromagnetic frequency, which is how you attract and how you draw things to you. We're going to go into all of this in more depth. This is just an outline of the structure. So, dial reality. The same way that you change channels on a TV is the same way that you tune your mind to the frequency of that which you want to attract, or that which you really don't want, because that also becomes an image in your mind. Anything that you image in your mind is you dialing that frequency. The longer you hold that image, the more intense the signal gets, the faster it all comes to you. Yeah. Okay, so let's get the crazy stuff out of the way. What if, and by the way, the best way that you can start to expand your life into different directions is by asking what if questions. When you start asking what if questions, you know you are on the right path to expanding into different mindsets, mind states, and modes of being. What if you weren't a human being, but a divine being human? I want you to just contemplate that for a moment. What if you weren't a human being, but a divine being human? So there's a lot of accounts of this, a lot of great philosophers who have spoken about this. I don't have conclusive evidence because I haven't had a near-death experience, but there are many people who have who are all saying the same thing, that they just become formless, they become light, and that the human body is simply something they incarnate into and inhabit. So if that's true, then we have all of the creative ability of our divine selves. And these human finite forms are simply the machines that we control. So, assuming that this is the case, then we have access to certain creative machinery. One is your dominion over thought, meaning that only you can control what you think. Your EGS, which is your emotional guidance system, which we're going to get into. The power to image things with your mind. And last but not least, the electromagnetic creative pulse, which then goes out and begins drawing its parallels to you as a result of those things. And we're going to explain how that all works. Next slide, please. Okay, so your dominion over thought. So, tell me if this is similar to some of you in the room. You wake up in the morning from the same side of the bed, go and brush your teeth in exactly the same way. Maybe you start with the front or you start with the back, but it's always the same way. You drink tea or coffee out of your favorite mug. You might check your emails. You put on the clothes that people expect you to wear. You get in the car and go to work or where you're expected to be. And you follow all the rules along the way. And then you go to work, and then you drive back using the exact same route. You don't divert and maybe take some scenic road. No. You'll go the same way every time. You park in almost the same spot. You'll come home. You'll have the same after-work ritual. You'll do the same thing in the evening. you'll eat a predictable meal, spend some time with your loved ones, and so on. And yet you want to have different lives, and you want to create a new personality. So look into the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's a real leader on this. Basically, the same thoughts give way to the same choices, which gave way to the same behaviors, which lead to the same habits, which create the same emotions, which leads to the same experience, which drives more of the same thoughts, and that becomes your personal reality, which is what most people would call their personality. So your personality is nothing more than habituated, redundant, memorized thought patterns and emotional patterns. And because you don't have to think about it, that is who you are. So if you do something that's uncharacteristic, people will be like, oh, that's not like you. Well, why did you wear that today? You never wear those things. You have these expectations of how you're expected to be because that's what people have come to know you to be. You respond to things the same way. You react to stresses the same way. You are the same person. We can go to the next slide. People typically have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, 90% of which are exactly the same as the day before. Oh no, we went too far. Back again. Yes, so what we want is new thoughts, which lead to new choices, then new behaviors, new habits, new emotions, new experiences, further new thoughts, and a new personality, a new personal reality is born. Okay? So, in today's fast media-filled world, the first battle is to try and control how you think. So your dominion over your thought is being hijacked with people telling you not how to think, but what to think. Schools no longer teach people how to think, they teach them what to think, right? So you can see just on the slide behind me that the media ingrains a lot of this stuff into you, so you hold a certain image of the world. Now imagine if you just watched a movie where a little girl is walking down a dark country road and there's dancing frogs and hedgehogs and little animals of the night and everything's happy and wonderful, right? And you go and walk down that a similar country road, you'd probably be feeling okay. But imagine you watched another movie where someone jumped out of one of the bushes and stabbed someone and so on, right? If you then walk down a country road, you're going to be filled with fear and anxiety. And that's how these things work. And because we're all connected and it's a collective consciousness, you have enough people who are vibrating with fear and anxiety, suddenly you have a culture that's now more fearful and more anxious, and that's how this whole thing spreads. Next slide, please. So your EGS, your emotional guidance system. The true purpose of your feelings is not just to tell you your condition. What if your feelings were your way of knowing if you're creating positively or negatively? So I want you to know that whenever you are awake, you are always creating. That is what you do. You are a creating machine. The reason that most people don't feel like it is because they're having 90% of the same thoughts, which means they're creating the same thing over and over again. But they are creating those things over and over again. Just like cells replicating. They replicate the same. If you have a scar, the cells know to replicate that scar over and over and over again because you know that you have a scar. It's the same thing. An EGS, your emotional guidance system, means that if you feel good about something, you are now creating more positively. If you feel bad about something, you are creating more negative. It's as simple as that. It works beyond reason, beyond your mind's thinking. So if something makes intellectual sense, but doesn't feel right, I would put money on it's not right for you. If something makes no sense, like love, right? How many people do crazy things there? But it feels really good, go with how you feel. Your emotional guidance system is one of the most intelligent GPS devices there is. And it's always there to tell you when you're on the right track. And the thing is, it only works for you. So nobody can tell you if it's the right decision for you. Only you will know, and you will know that as a feeling. And as you start to pay attention to and listen to these feelings, they grow stronger and more prominent. So to begin with, it might be a little hushed whisper that you have to really listen for. After a while, it can sound like it's coming through a megaphone. And that just takes training and practice. Okay, so your EGS always knows where you need to be. All you have to do is follow your feeling. One caveat here though, do not confuse pleasure with purpose. So a lot of people try and say like, oh, but that made me feel really good. But that's immediate gratification, which is different than going towards your purpose. So ask yourself, is it something that's just going to bring me momentary joy, or is it something that ultimately leads to my higher good? If it's the latter and it leads towards your higher good, then go towards it. Okay, that says the disintegration of man, which is basically saying that unfortunately these days we're torn between our hearts and our minds. So our hearts say to go one way, but everybody says no, but it's good and you should do this and it's the right job, it's the right relationship for you, or you know what I mean, all of this kind of stuff. And what we need to do is learn to reintegrate the heart and mind. We can go to the next slide. Okay, the third step is your imagination. So this is my definition for imagination: the process by which human beings metaphysically collect creative energy in a pre-experience of a new reality, which once energetically dense enough, solidifies into physical form. So, in the words of Albert Einstein, your imagination is your preview of life's coming attractions. When you imagine something in your mind, you actually trigger chemical release in your body, which will then influence your feelings, which actually influences your physiology and your biology. And over time, you become a product of the images that you hold in your mind. So, again, a couple of other quotes. A true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination. That's also Albert Einstein and Bob Proctor. Thoughts become things. If you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. Next slide. Okay, so once we have these things, once you're following your emotional guidance system and you're imagining things in your mind, the way it then goes out into the universe is through the creative pulse, which is the unification of your heart and your mind. So in recent science, the heart has been shown to have 40,000 neurites of its own, which basically means the heart has its own brain that it communicates with the mind. As you start to elevate in frequency through higher emotions such as joy and abundance and contentment and love and so on, your auric field, right, which is the field to which other people can sense you, expands, and it can go up to 9 meters. The more you are in frustration, anger, bitterness, grief, the more you close in and the less you vibrate outwards. And it might sound a little bit like out there, but I mean, how many of you have sat next to somebody who was negative and begun feeling more negative? How many of you walked into a room and were like, I like the vibe here, right? We are built to respond to vibration. And it doesn't take any science to be able to figure that out. You've noticed it countless times in your own lives, I'm sure. So the way that the creative pulse works is when you hold an image of a thought in your mind, right? Maybe it's an ideal version of yourself, something you want to be, do, or have. And then you align it with a feeling. The thought is the electric component. Imagine that as like a boat, right? And the heart is the magnetic component, which is the sea that the boat rides on. When you put those together, you send that out into the world and it begins to draw its counterpart back towards you. So it's all about thinking in your mind, having the thought there, and then combining that with the emotion. Positive thought alone will do nothing. If you just have positive thoughts and everybody says think positive, unless you combine that with a positive emotion that corresponds with it, it does not go out into the universe. The brain is the world's biggest transmitter and receiver of source energy, and because everything is made up largely of empty space, your thoughts permeate through walls, through mortar, through brick, through steel, through lead, anywhere in the world. And what happens is, as you begin to put these thoughts and these vibrations out there, things around the world begin to shift to more closely match what you are holding in your mind and bring it towards you. And that's when things begin to change, when you start to do this deliberately rather than unconsciously. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so to put your creative machinery on turbo drive, how to significantly amplify the manifestation process, this is where a lot of people trip up. They think that when they get something, they're going to start feeling good. Unfortunately, that's not how it works, right? Most prayers don't work because of the prayer structure. Affirmations, which is like, I'm so happy because I'm so rich, those don't work either because they feel false. And it's not seeing is believing, it's believing is seeing. You have to believe it first, trigger a physiological response, change your chemistry. When the body can feel like it already has that which you are asking for and experience the emotion of already having it, that is when it starts to come towards you. So you have to be grateful for what you already have in order to have more of it. It's very, very key point. A lot of people don't express gratitude for what they have. And it can be really simple. There was a story of a woman who was in a wheelchair and she was constantly in pain. And she couldn't find anything to be grateful for. And I read the story and I was quite fascinated by it. She used to say, I'm grateful my eyebrows don't hurt. Because that was one area in her body that wasn't causing her pain. And then she would think of something else that she was grateful for, and something else. And she noticed after her magic number was 150 things. So she made a list of 150 things that she was grateful for. The pain would become noticeably less. And so she did this regularly, and she stopped using a wheelchair. And the same person, Dr. Joe Dispenza, who I mentioned earlier, who had the broken vertebra, the doctor said unless he undergoes this very invasive surgery, he would never walk again. 10 weeks of visualizing himself reconstructing his spine, and he was able to walk out. And now he studies patients who have spontaneous remissions. And it's all the same thing. They're the same governing principles. So this is how it works. If you don't know what you want, you can go towards something that feels good. Like, I want to feel more secure. I want to feel more calm. And we're going to go into how to structure these properly so that it works for you rather than it just being another workshop of fun ideas. You need to live inside that creative pulse as long as you can, for as long a duration each time as you can. So most people think of what they want, but then they lose it within seconds. The idea is to be able to hold yourself emotionally and mentally in that space for at least 90 seconds. If you can do that for 90 seconds, you trigger a huge wave that begins to action this towards you. But most people don't even do 90 seconds. What is 90 seconds? It's a minute and a half, right? But that's how fast the mind jumps from one thing to another. The mind likes to get in the way. So to really hold space and be able to hold that image for 90 seconds is your first challenge. Give gratitude for what you want to experience in the future as if it is already yours. So when I express gratitude, I say thank you for something that I'm going to have in the future. I express genuine gratitude because I trust that the universe is bringing it towards me, and I express gratitude in advance because it's always an exchange. People wait to, they'll say, like, for example, I'm going to become more generous when I have a lot of money. Right? Who's heard that one before? You know, I'm going to give more once I have. But the idea is you need to give from where you are with what you have in order to receive more. And that's the whole thing. And if you want to begin that exchange, then you begin with yourself. Yes, anything you give your thought and energy to, your creative machine interprets this as, I want to experience this. So if you say, oh, I hate being here, oh, it's so frustrating, and I hate that person, and the universe goes, well, if you're thinking about it, you must want more of the same thing. Now, somebody might have a car crash, right? And they'd be like, I never wished for a car crash. Of course, you didn't. But you probably did express feelings and thoughts of frustration, of anger, of things not going your way. And you collect enough energy in that fifth dimensional quantum field, which begins to solidify and begins to grow more dense, and boom, you have a car crash. Why? Because the car crash makes you feel more frustrated, more angry, and it just reinforces everything that you were already thinking and feeling. So that's why people who pay attention to the economic situation and things in their immediate environment only get more reminders of the same. So a true master will judge not by appearances. Once you can hold an emotional and a mental space of what it is you want to create, irrespective of current environmental situation, that is when you've got it. That is when the key gets turned. That is when things begin to come towards you. I had no idea I would come to Bali. I had no idea I would begin a venue in Bali called the Superhero Factory, which brings everything full circle to me being a kid. And I remember before I got my Man of the Year award in Bali, I actually sat down and I imagined myself winning the award. I remember when I was nominated for it, and it felt like such an honor. I just sat down and imagined winning. And I imagined so intently. I could see people cheering. I could see myself holding the trophy. It felt so real, I actually shed a tear. And that's when I knew that something had shifted. A few days later, I won the Man of the Year award. I have many examples like this in my life, which I'd be happy to share if we have the time for, to reinforce some of the things that I'm saying. We're going to get into things that we can all do in a moment. Okay, so a lot of people say, but the world is such a mess. The world is so messed up. How am I supposed to do anything? I should be thinking about the poor people. I should be thinking about the people who don't have enough. I should be thinking about the crime rate and all of this stuff. Understand that you can never solve a problem from the same level of mind in which the problem was created. You have to rise above it in order to find the solution. You have to transcend that reality. So look at this messy kitchen, and I'm going to ask you a question. Could you still pour yourself a perfectly clean glass of wine? Of course. Are you going to be worried that an egg might slip into there? Are you going to be worried that some vinegar might find its way into your glass? No, because you're just going to go for that glass of wine. It's the same thing. Just because all the ingredients are there, and just because all of these things exist around you, doesn't mean that you have to put your energy and focus towards it. And in fact, you can choose. You either want to perpetuate the problem, or you want to rise to the level of mind that can actually find a solution. Okay. So, your tiny radar, what that means is, it is your job to figure out what you want and why you want it, not how. Let the universe do that. The universe is the grand conductor of the orchestra. It sees the big picture. You only see what's immediately in front of you. You don't know, for example, that the partner of your dreams might be somebody that your company hires next month. How would you possibly predict that? You don't know that you were a shoo-in for the promotion that you wanted. You don't know that you were about to expand into a different country and you'd be the person heading the new branch overseas. You have no idea the stuff that can be orchestrated on your behalf. So don't focus on the how. Focus on what you want and why you want it. And keep all of your energy, all of your intention, all of your enthusiasm, all of your power there. And the how will figure itself out, I promise you. It's happened over and over again. I remember at the Superhero Factory when one of our lead trainers had to go, and he said, "Tah Riq, you should be frustrated. You should be in a panic. I'm leaving in 2 weeks. Who's going to replace me? You don't even have a replacement." Do you know what I told him? I said, "Man, it's all good. The right trainers will find us." And he's like, "Oh, I don't understand how you can be so airy-fairy about it." Like, no, really. I'm leaving. You need people who are going to run the classes. I said, "The right trainers will find us." He left. 2 days later, somebody walked in to the Superhero Factory and said, "I really want to teach here." And then 2 days later, a friend of his said, "I want to join my friend and teach here also." And everything carried on. So that is the difference between fifth dimension creation, which is where things come to you, and third dimension creation, where you want a house, you go look at 50 houses, you want a car, you go look at a bunch of different cars. And there's a difference between creating on a third dimension, which is the hard work, struggle, etc., and the fifth dimension, which is the allowing, release, surrender, and letting everything come to you. Okay, so I'm going to read this from here. This is an excerpt from an ebook I wrote called Interview with the Universe, which if you want a copy of, by the way, just leave your email at the end, and I'd be happy to send a copy to you. So, in the same way that Neil Donald Walsh had his conversations with God, this is my interview with the universe. I put myself in the place of how would the universe answer this, and I found that these answers were coming to me that I otherwise wouldn't have thought of. So I'm just going to read a little bit for you here. Universe, your brains, Earth's most powerful transmitters and receivers of source energy, first dial in the correct frequency by holding the desired image in mind. In other words, what you imagine and see in your mind's eye is what you attract. Your heart feeds your thoughts with magnetic emotion, greatly increasing the image's intensity and charge. Your brain and heart then pulses this energy outward, broadcasting it everywhere. The longer you hold the image clearly in your mind, and the longer you feel the feelings of having the real version of that image, the more powerful and therefore attractive you become. Then I ask, I've never heard of it put like that before. Universe answers, there's more. As this energy is electromagnetic in nature, it is received and picked up by anyone and anything anywhere instantly that has a corresponding or contributing frequency or vibration, because we're all made of the same energy. So now all of these vibrationally congruent agents, like musicians in a great orchestra, all play their part with their unique contributions to bring you what you are broadcasting. As you are also vibrationally aligned to them, you too play a part in bringing them their desires, though you may not know what part you play. So then I say, so who are you in this orchestra? And the universe answers, I'm the maestro, the conductor. I line up everyone and everything so that it all fits together in the right place at the right time. Then I ask, so what part am I in the orchestra? And the universe says, you are the composer. By holding the thought image over time with intensity and emotion, all the different elements unwittingly begin to play chords and melodies in your chosen symphony. These magnetized and emotive images attract their physical expression and realization back to you, and given enough time and space for all the elements to work their magic, it's always yours. The piece of music is written, but it requires the orchestra to play before you truly hear the music. And all this happens with the added buffer of time, to give you a chance to decide if what you are continuing to broadcast is truly what you want. If everything manifested instantly, imagine if you thought of a tragedy and boom, a tragedy happened, life would be complete chaos. The world will be in chaos and people's thoughts and emotions can jump erratically. Time answers the question, is this symphony what you really want to hear? Okay, next slide. Okay, is everybody with me so far? Mm-hmm. All right, ready to go into something that we can actually do? Alrighty, so the manifestation tools and techniques. So, through studying people like Michael Lossier and others, I've developed my own system for the manifestation process, and I call it DARE. So, D is for declare, where you out loud verbally, I mean like literally to the sky if you want, and in writing, write down what you desire. Universe, I am ready for, I am now attracting, I am grateful that, I am beginning to. Notice that all of these statements begin with I am. I am is your manifestation key. Everything you say after the word I am is what you are manifesting. Take that as a given. We're going to go into these in more detail, by the way. The next is to act. This means doing what is in your power to move towards your goals. So people who want to start a business will say, oh, but I have no money to start a business. Fair enough, but you can write a business plan. You can start to look at potential venues. You can start to do the research in your chosen field. Do your part to show the universe you're serious. Begin that transaction. Begin the exchange. Meet the universe halfway. Make room for your future self would mean, so if, for example, we're talking about like health and fitness and things like that, if there's things in your wardrobe that your ideal self would never wear, then why are they there? Ask yourself, is this what my ideal self would do, what my ideal self would wear? Begin to make room in your life for the things that you want to appear in order for them to appear. I had a client, this Indian lady, who couldn't manifest her love relationship. And when we went into her situation, we saw that she was living with her mother. There was actually no energetic room in her life to allow for this man to enter. And she said, no, when I meet the man, then I'll move out. I said, no, unless you move out, you won't meet the man. Because she hadn't made room in her life energetically to say that I am now ready to receive. The next step is to allow, which means to trust Oh, sorry, amplify. A lot of people say, don't tell anybody what your dreams are. It's a little bit more detailed than that. I think you can talk about it, but you don't talk about the grand vision. You don't tell people, you don't go to your, some skeptic and say, hey, by the way, I'm going to be a millionaire. I just know I am. Because they're going to start shooting you down, they're going to start questioning your ethics, your ideas. No. But say, for example, like when I wanted to build a superhero factory, I didn't tell people like I want to build a superhero factory. I said, hey, do you know of any warehouses? They don't know what the warehouse is for. But every time I went out somewhere, hey, do you know anybody who has any warehouses? Hey, do you know any warehouses? Warehouses. Suddenly I meet somebody who knows warehouses and I start getting pointed in the directions of warehouses. So you can amplify things towards you by asking people for what their immediate needs are. Because the more people know, the more they can leverage their networks to bring it to you. This is just common sense. But don't tell them the big dream, because that's when you have people start to question you and say, no, you're not good enough, strong enough, fast enough, etc. You hold the images and feelings of what you are attracting as frequently and for as long a duration as you can, and live in this future state. This is where you can do vision boards, where people like cut out magazine articles of their favorite house and so on. But if looking at that picture of that dream car, that dream house makes you feel bad because you don't have it, then that dream board is just going to keep those things further away from you. I noticed that a shift was beginning to happen for me. I used to see sports cars drive past and feel this emptiness inside me, like, oh. And then when I noticed that things began to shift was I'd see a Lamborghini pull up and I'd be like, oh man, that's so cool. That's exciting. Look how beautiful that is. Ah, how good that must feel, And when I started to do that, I noticed that, okay, I've now moved from a place of lack to a feeling of gratitude and even being happy for others' success. So you trust that all the people who've done it know what they're doing, the masters are all saying the same thing, they're right, and you give the time and space for things to be drawn to you. It might take 2 months, it might take 2 weeks, it might take 2 years, but it's coming to you. Imagine you buy tickets for a concert, right? And that concert isn't for 6 months, but it's your favorite band, you've loved them since childhood. You will already feel really good, even though you're not there. You're not at the concert, you haven't seen the show. You don't even hold the tickets. It's just an email that you get sent to say that you're going, and already you feel good. Why? Because you believe you're going. And what happens 6 months later? You go to your concert, you have a brilliant time, hey, all's good. Why do people suddenly do things so differently when they want something? They say, oh, I want to go there. Oh, no, but it's not coming to me. I don't know if I can have that. Oh, no. And they start to sabotage the process. Imagine like ordering something from eBay or online, right? Saying like, oh, it'll take 6 to 8 weeks to deliver. You accept it, and you wait 6 to 8 weeks. You don't 2 weeks down the line go, I bet it's not coming to me. Maybe I moved house. Maybe I'll just send it somewhere else instead. Right? Maybe I don't want the orange one. It was really the blue one I wanted. Oh, look, now I'm a size bigger. Like, all of this stuff is just sabotaging. It's sending mixed signals to the universe. If you want something and you're clear that you want something, stay with it. Trust that it'll come. Right? If somebody said, hey, you'll become a millionaire or a billionaire or you'll own businesses all around the world, but it's going to take you 10 years, you'd still be thrilled. You'd be like, hey, that sounds like a really good deal, actually. I'd happily take that. Right? But you don't know that that's not going to be the case. So don't cut yourself off while you're still going down the road. Then the next step is to receive, which means to acknowledge that it's now there, to acknowledge that signs and things have begun moving in your chosen direction. So receiving doesn't just mean the end goal. It could mean having the feelings of already having it. And you notice by the concert ticket example, you already feel good. You've actually triggered a physiological response, even though nothing in your environment has changed. That's exactly what I want you to do if you want to begin to manifest things more deliberately, more intentionally. And then enjoy, which means show the gratitude for what you have. Set your sights on bigger things, that's fine, but show gratitude for what you have, and then you can start to draw more towards you. Okay, so truth is nothing more than a practiced belief, and a belief is nothing more than a practiced thought. So what's true for one person will not be true for another, because it depends how people practice their thoughts and beliefs. Okay, next. We all live in parallel realities, which means we can all go to the same concert. Some people think it's amazing, some people think it was terrible, depending on what your choice of music is, how you grew up, what your parents listened to when you were a kid, etc., etc. So same event, different experiences, different realities. Okay, so this is where it starts to become practical. In order to do this in your daily lives, what you need to do is get yourselves a notebook, just a blank little diary. This is going to be called your positive evidence book. And this is how you use a positive evidence book. First, you write down a list of your limiting beliefs. So these are all of the thoughts that continue to nag at you through the subconscious mind. I want you to bring it into your conscious awareness. So things like, I'm not good enough, I'm too old for this, nothing I do works, etc., right? And you're going to write down all of these limiting beliefs. Because once you write them down and acknowledge them, they will no longer slip by your awareness. So that's what we want. So you get a positive evidence book, and we're going to go through now how to use that in detail. So, identify limiting beliefs and negative programs, delete those things, find real-world examples of the opposite. So, for example, I want to do parkour, but hey, most of the people who do parkour are like 17 years old, and I'm like, oh, am I too old for this? Find an example of someone who's 47 who can do better parkour than I can. Boom. There, my limiting belief that it's only for young people or whatever is immediately changed. So find examples of things where other people who are in worse off situations or the same situations have done more or greater than what you want to do. And there are examples out there. There's 7 billion of us, and there's been years and years of evolution in life that have come and gone. You will find examples of people who've done it, and that's all you need to believe that you can do it too. So, example of limiting beliefs. There isn't enough for me. All the good ones are taken. Money is evil. Money doesn't grow on trees. I'm too old. I don't have the qualifications. I don't deserve happiness. I'm not worthy of love. All relationships lead to pain and suffering. By me having enough, someone else goes without. That's a great one, because people feel like they're being like altruistic and good for humanity, and they deprive themselves of their own happiness because they think that that way somebody else will get to eat that night. It doesn't work that way. There's nothing I can do to change things. This happens to everyone in my family. Okay, next. So, you identify your limiting beliefs, you get unlimited evidence. So you get evidence of people who are doing, having, or being what you want, and you list that next to it, and that will already take care of a lot of your limiting beliefs. So, list of true desires. This is how to create a parallel reality list. We don't have enough time to go through this with people individually, but remember these steps. You can do them in your own time. I highly recommend you do it. It will really change your game. So you find out what you don't want. A lot of people say, I don't know what I want. That's totally cool. It's fine. You don't have to know what you want, as long as you know what you don't want. I bet everybody knows what they don't want. And then you mirror it into the positive. So for example, if somebody said, I hate being stuck in an office 9 to 5 with a boss telling me what to do, they've identified what they don't want. If you mirror that into the positive, it becomes, I feel good thinking about a job with location freedom where I choose the way I contribute, where I can choose my own hours and schedule. So you just take what you don't want, mirror it into the positive, and boom, you now know what you want. I don't want a lover who is jealous, selfish, and mean with money. What that means is, I welcome meeting a lover who is secure in themselves to allow me to be fully me, who is giving and generous. I don't like not having enough and constantly worrying about how to pay bills and survive. I am grateful for the money I do have, and I allow the universe full permission to take my financial abundance to a place of thriving. I feel ashamed of my weight. I don't like how I look. Having found many examples of people who have transformed their looks and health, I know it's possible for me also. I am grateful for my desire to become a better version of myself. Imagining a healthier, fitter me feels good. So, can you see how you take negative and mirror it into the positive? Okay. Oh, and I just put on here, global war on terror. What does that make you imagine? War, terror, right? What if it was global unity for peace and harmony? Isn't that saying the same thing? But one is perpetuating the problem, the other is elevating towards the solution. So words are powerful. Never underestimate the power of your spoken word or the things that you read and see, because they all influence the same thing. That's why when I figured this stuff out, I stopped watching horror movies where people were getting like killed and cut up and things like that, because I found that for the rest of the day, I just had those images in my mind. That doesn't do to serve you towards feeling good or happier or better or productive. So you can do that with all of the different areas of your life, your finances, your looks, your health, your love relationships, etc. You can find out what you don't want, mirror it very quickly and easily into what you do want. And then you start to get a clear image of the kind of life that you want to have. So, a universal declaration. So this is by Napoleon Hill, who studied under Andrew Carnegie, who was the richest man in the industrial world. He gave away, I think it was 76.8 billion. And if he gave that much away, imagine how much he had. Right? So, a universal declaration means that a lot of people say, I want this, but they don't say what they want to give in return. And that's why it doesn't begin the exchange. Remember, everything is a give and take. Everything is receiving, transmitting. There always has to be an exchange. If there's no exchange, then the mechanism does not go into work. So I'm just going to read some of these for you from here. So you write down a clear description of your major desire in life, a circumstance or position in life or thing, something you would be willing to accept as your idea of success. Remember, the only limitations are those that you set up in your own mind or allow others to set up for you. Write down a clear statement of precisely what you intend to give back in return for that which you desire. And then begin giving of this immediately. So if you decide that I want to open my own bakery, and in exchange I'm going to feed people with the best, most tasty cakes, all over Russia, then begin making those cakes, begin feeding people, and begin making those best cakes. You know what I mean? You begin the process, whatever it is. I'm just using that as an example, but this can be across any domain or field. Memorize both statements, and this is from Napoleon Hill, who studied people like Henry Ford and Andrew Carnegie, and he learned with some of the finest minds. And you say it at least 12 times a day. Sounds like a lot. You could begin with 3, once in the morning, once in the afternoon, once in the evening. Oh, yeah. Yeah, next slide. Okay, so this is an example. So your declaration, which is what you want to receive. I am gratefully attracting ever-flowing and increasing wealth and mental and material resources to limitlessly create my grand and crazy visions in this world. Right? For example. Now remember, this is limitless dream creation. This is not saying like I want an extra $50 a week. This is like your big life's work that you're saying. What I want to give in return is I'm a catalyzing transformation switch for others, creating exponential value and service to millions to live their lives more fully, become more happy, using all of my gifts to do this. So I know that for my particular exchange with the universe, I need to help more people discover how to manifest. So I've already begun doing that wherever I can. That begins the mechanism. So you can write your own. It has to be a declaration of what you want to receive in a clear, concise statement and what you are willing to give in return, and then you begin giving of that immediately. Okay? So, true formations. So this is why affirmations don't work. I am so happy because I'm so rich. Right? Unless you are actually happy and rich, you read that statement, you're not going to feel good. It's going to make you feel worse. My body is toned, slim, and strong, right? Again, if you're not toned, slim, and strong, it's not going to feel good. So, an example of a prayer. I desperately want more love in my life. I wish I wasn't alone, right? I wish, I want, I hope, right? That's the typical language of prayer. An example of true formation is where you take something that you want, but you make it true. For example, I am grateful for the money I already have, and I'm growing excited about attracting more too. That can be congruent, that can be held in a place of truth immediately. The idea of seeing myself with lots of money makes me feel secure and calm and grateful. Even if you don't have any, the idea of seeing yourself with it would make you feel more calm, more secure. It's the same way you trick your body as with the concert tickets. You feel the feeling before you experience the having. I am grateful for the love I am shown, and I know the universe has already begun orchestrating me meeting the right partner for me. I know the right person for me is out there, and I feel grateful to be becoming the kind of person they are increasingly attracted to. I don't know how, but I trust that the universe is orchestrating things around me for my greatest good. Stuff like that. Whatever you need to do or say to make you feel good now and move towards better and better feeling thoughts, that is going to catalyze things in your favor. Okay, so the positive evidence means once you have your declaration, you have your limiting beliefs, and you've eliminated those with your evidence of the contrary. Once you have your list of the things that you want, now things will, believe me, start to move and shift. You'll notice little signs, something somebody might say, something somebody might do, something that'll happen to you. Write them down. Every time a little bit of positive evidence makes its way into your experience, you write it down. I'll tell you why, because the mind is a fickle master and subject, and one day you'll wake up and you'll feel crap, and you'll be like, nothing is going my way, my life is terrible, and then you can open your evidence book and you'll see example after example of all of the things that are going your way, and it will change your mood immediately, and you'll start to create positivity again. Very, very powerful, especially where the environment doesn't necessarily reflect the kind of positivity that you wish to have or to see. And gratitude just means to be grateful for what you already have in order to have more. They say that by declaring or becoming aware of 5 things that you're grateful for every day, over 6 weeks, you can elevate your base happiness level by 25%. So that's not through the accumulation of any extra things. It's not through more shopping or fancier living. That's just through being grateful for what you have. Okay, this is one that a lot of people overlook. Eliminate negative speech, use only positive speech. So things like don't, can't, cannot, shouldn't, won't, no, not, or I am, which is that manifestation word there. Too busy, too tired, too weak, not strong enough, fast enough, qualified enough, smart enough, etc. So this is why this is worth paying attention to. When you say I am sick, you are literally manifesting sickness. I am sick. No, be specific. Is your throat sore? Does your head hurt? That's fine. My head hurts. Okay. But not I am sick. Not I am tired. Maybe I want more sleep. Right? My body deserves more rest. Whatever. Notice whenever you're saying anything negative and spin it into the positive. Once you start doing this, by the way, it's impossible to go back. After like 2 weeks of flipping things into positive, you'll notice immediately whenever you say anything like can't or shouldn't or won't. And we have examples of how to do this in the next slide. So, for example, I am sick becomes my throat feels sore. I am tired becomes my body needs rest. Don't be late, please be on time. I shouldn't do that. I would rather do something else. I can't meet you at the beginning of the week. I have time for you later in the week. I don't like when you do that. I would be much happier if you did this. 1 in 5 people you know will get cancer. 4 out of 5 people you know will stay free of illness. Wow, same statistic, but God, does that feel different. Can you imagine if that was the news broadcast instead? Instead of saying, 1 in 5 people you know in your lifetime will get cancer. What if instead it was like, 4 out of 5 people you know will stay healthy for life? Isn't that great? You'd be like, wow, those are great odds. Right? Look at that, just spinning a few words. Your son has ADHD. Your son only wants to listen to things that interest him. I remember when I was in 1st grade and they put me on Ritalin because they said I couldn't focus. But actually I'm extremely focused because that's how I got good at guitar and poetry and other things. It's just that I wasn't interested in what they were trying to teach me. And it's amazing how just spinning a little bit of language can dramatically change the results. They say that when you praise a child based on their effort, they continually show improvement. When you praise a child based on that they are gifted or that they're smart, then they stop excelling in the same way, just through the way that you praise them. That's only words. So the language of the universe only answers yes. That's all it says. You might think that's great. But if you say, I really want to be more healthy, the universe goes, yes, you do want to be more healthy. I really wish I was happier. You're right. You do wish you were happier. I want more love. Yes, you do want more love, don't you? Doesn't get you any closer to those things. Because all you're answering is by saying, I want more love. The universe confirms that and says you do want more love and gives you more feeling of the wanting love, not more of the love. So this is why I think hope is a bad word. Because by hoping for something, you immediately acknowledge that it's something that you don't have and that you're somehow in squalor. So hoping is for beggars. And beggars can't be choosers. To say you hope immediately places you in a place of lack. If you hope for something, you acknowledge and affirm that you don't have it. Wishing. To wish for something acknowledges that you don't have that which you are wishing for. Wanting. If you look up the definition of wanting, it says, as well as desiring, it also says lacking, not existing, absent. To want something is to affirm that you do not have it. Doubting. Stress, anxiety, overly analytical thoughts, self-sabotage. This serves to keep your desires further from you. It also keeps you in beta brainwave patterns, which is the furthest you can be from creative, which is gamma and delta, which is where people slip into when they go into deep meditation, or alpha. If you're in beta and you're overly analytical, you are sabotaging yourself. Okay? So what should you do instead? Believing, choosing, acting, trusting. I believe I am this. I choose to have success. I choose to find my partner. I deserve to be happy. And you begin acting congruently with that which you desire. It feels very different to say, I hope for something, I wish for something, I want something, or to say, I choose to have it. One is a command based in power. The other is based in poverty. So, a wonderful exercise. A lot of people have trouble imagining this future or getting into that emotion. So there's a wonderful technique you can do. If done right, it's extremely powerful. And with modern technology, there's really a wonderful way that you can do this. I call it listening to you in the future. So you handwrite. And the reason, by the way, that we say a notebook and not type it on a computer is because when you type, there's only something like 8 different kinds of inputs you can do. So 8 different kinds of neurons that make connections in your brain. When you handwrite something, it's more like 8,000. So your brain will synthesize what you write much better than it will what you type. Preferably in blue ink. You're going to handwrite a paragraph detailing a future moment as if it's in the present. So, for example, I don't know, if I want to give a speech at TED in California, I'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe it. The day is actually here. I can hear the crowd in the background. I'm wearing my favorite pinstripe suit. I've prepared this for the last month and a half. My parents are in the background cheering me on. Look at my mother. She's so excited. She's wearing her favorite dress, and my father's holding her. They have their little iPhones out trying to film from backstage. Make it as real as possible. Include all of the sensory information that makes you visualize it as you write it. Once you have that paragraph detailing a specific moment in the future, what you're going to do is record yourself saying it with emotion, using like your iPhone, using any kind of dictaphone or anything like that. Record yourself saying it as an MP3 and then listen to it over and over again. And you can create that for as many different moments as you wish to manifest. So now you actually have a catalyst. Now you actually have a device that you can use to trigger the emotions and the images of the future self, rather than trying to have to create it from scratch every time. Very, very powerful. It works extremely well. And it's one of those things that once you combine all of these tools and techniques together, you'll really notice some landmark shifts. Okay, so you handwrite the paragraph, include sensory information. If you can see it in your mind, so include details like I'm wearing this dress, I'm wearing this shirt, and if you can see it in your mind, that means you're on the right path. And you can create other moments, and you can listen to it, for example, on the way to work every morning. It's sure to make you feel better. And feeling better is the key. Okay, changing your relationship with money. So when I was a kid, I grew up with a lot of limiting beliefs around money. Parents do their best. They're given the tool set from their parents and so on, and nobody questions it along the way, so it just keeps keeps going generation to generation. Some of these where money doesn't grow on trees. Money is a corrupter. Money is evil. Money is bad for you, and so on, right? Reverend Ike came up with this, I think, brilliant analogy. He said, imagine if money was a love partner. Do you think that the way you speak about them attracts them toward you or repels them from you? So if money is dirty, and money is only there to cause misery and harm, and I think if that was a lady, like, she'd want to stay really far away from me. I mean, I'm doing nothing to endear her toward me. So you change your relationship with money, and you say money is a neutral resource. Money is simply a placeholder of energy. I can choose to do a lot of good with it. In fact, when I'm rich, I can do much more with money than I can when I'm poor. So you start to empower and shift your relationship from a base level. And if this doesn't apply to you in the room, because I understand we're speaking at the Stockholm School of Economics, but you probably have friends that would benefit from a simple shift in paradigm with their relationship with money. So one thing that you can say, though, is you never spend money. Because anything that's spent is gone. You expend energy, the energy is no longer there. You don't spend money. You give money, you use money, you donate money, you circulate money, you pay with money, but you don't spend it. Because when you give money, it's just in the hand of somebody else. But the money is still there. It doesn't get shredded up and thrown away. Right? So you don't spend money. Money is given, it's donated, it's circulated, etc. So whenever I pay for something or choose to use money, I actually make it a conscious transaction. And since I've begun doing this, I found that the money that I've needed and wanted to do all different kinds of things has made its way into my life. It's going to sound a little bit out there, but hey, we're on a roll, we might as well keep going. So my money mantra, which is adapted from Reverend Ike, is I notice money is adding to the wealth of the economy and to the success of this business. I ask the universe to return this financial exchange many times greater. So every time I give money or use money or pay a bill or whatever, I attach this with it. I see God multiplying all of the money I give, use, and circulate back to me in a forever continuing cycle of increase and enjoyment. Good health, happiness, love, success, youth, wisdom, prosperity, and money. And now, the greater the bill, the more you're paying, the better you feel. And that's quite a market shift for a lot of people. And so when you can change that relationship, then you begin to call a lot more towards you. And you can use this not just for money, but for anything that you want to attract more of. Okay, so third dimensional creation versus fifth dimensional creation. So third dimension is old paradigm. It's cause and effect. I did this, therefore I get this. Whereas fifth dimensional is teaching the body to feel the feelings first and think the thoughts which pull the desires to you. It's having trust, it's knowing that things will just work out, not because you know how, but just because you know that it has the ability to. So the people who were studied and had spontaneous remission from major illnesses and diseases said that they arrived at this conclusion that their body was much more intelligent than they are. And this body that was able to regulate their heartbeat and their breathing and was able to do all of this repair and all of this growth beyond their perception was surely smart enough and intelligent enough to be able to heal the parts of their body that needed healing. And I've used a similar kind of thinking with the metabolism. And so, like, I really like pasta and cake and things like that. And so most people, the reason that a cake is bad for them is when they eat the cake, they feel guilty and ashamed. So every spoonful, they're like, oh, it's so bad for me. Oh, I shouldn't be doing this. Oh my God, no, why am I doing this? Why am I punishing myself? And because they're doing this, the cake ends up being really bad for them. Imagine if, right, I call it think slim thoughts, right? It's when you ate a piece of cake, you said, you know what, my body is smart enough that it knows how to extract the nutrients from this and let go of what isn't needed. My body is surely smart enough. If it can regulate my heartbeat for my entire life, I'm sure it knows how to figure out what is good and bad in a cake. Right? It sounds so ridiculous when you say it out loud, but since I've started doing this, I've noticed that I get healthier and fitter and more toned and in better shape, and I'm probably younger now than I was 6 years ago. And I actually have now like the actual evidence where my metabolic age now says 17 and a year and a half ago it said 31. So these things do work, and you can have a lot of fun with them. Don't take it too seriously. It's all about, I can see you're not. It's fun. Creation is fun, and we all have the ability to do it. And if you just begin gradually with some of the things that we've outlined here today, you'll notice that the evidence will start to say, hey, it's working, this is happening, this is happening. And as it happens, it becomes easier and easier to believe in the process, and bigger things happen, and all of a sudden you can shift countries and move careers and find that perfect relationship or repair a relationship that you're already in. All of that stuff is just a few thoughts and feelings away. Yeah. So, thank you all very much for your time. It's been a real joy and pleasure to talk to you here today. I think we have a few minutes for any questions, so let it rip. Yes.
I was talking about the 10 years old guy from the United States. Just imagine you were saying where you should be next day. You gain all the superpower you had, and once upon a time you discover that you actually don't. Do you think it would crash you even in the United States? One day you're gonna realize that you are not a Superman. You will never fly. You will never fly.
Yeah, you know what? On the one hand, you think like, but look at the Wright brothers. They dreamed of a flying machine, and they invented flight, which is now how modern transportation is built. At least aviation. I mean, so Richard Branson says, "I want to make commercial space travel viable." Like, wow, what a grand vision! And look, now you have Virgin Galactic, you have SpaceX. All of these people are daring to dream bigger than reality. So, right, I can't fly, but I can run up walls twice my height. I can leap big distances and land on a railing. I can do flips. So even though I can't fly, I'm still much closer to my superhero alter ego than I was many years ago. So it's kind of like, shoot for the moon, and even if you miss, you'll end up somewhere in the stars. So your reality will only ever be confined by your dreams. So if your dreams are too small, then your reality has to fit within that small dream. But if your dream is crazy big, and then even if your reality doesn't quite get there, it'll still be a really big reality. And that's ultimately what we want to strive towards. So I honestly feel like if I didn't have that upbringing that disempowerment of being told I wasn't a creator and that money was evil and all of this kind of stuff, I think that I would have achieved much greater levels of success much younger. But even with that has allowed me to be a bridge and be able to speak from both perspectives, to be able to help to usher other people across that river of change. So yeah, I'm very grateful now for the experience, because that's what allows me to be able to speak and identify with other people and the situations that they've gone into. Does that help answer them?
And one more question.
Yeah.
When we're talking about declaring, amplifying, acting, whatever, and the end of the line, enjoy.
Enjoy, yeah.
Actually, we are enjoying during all those stages.
Yeah.
And there's very narrow. You can make small steps, and instead of enjoying, you can obtain agreement stuff that everything is over.
So the reason I put enjoy is because a lot of people get something that they want, and they forget and they don't actually enjoy having it. They're already like, oh, okay, yeah, and they move on to the next thing. What this is like something manifests into your life that you've called forth. Then take the time to properly appreciate it and acknowledge it for what it is, for the manifestation that it is. And it's a lot of people, like, for example, they want a certain car. They get their car, they might enjoy it for the first few hours, and then, oh, it's just a car. Right? It's to say, like, bring awareness and appreciation and enjoyment, and remember why you asked for it in the first place. And from that place of enjoyment, then you continue to grow towards bigger and bigger things. But no, seriously, I move much more like a superhero now than I did when I was a kid. Anybody else?
So what is the final target of all this development? How you see yourself in 5 years ahead? Are you in Nirvana or who are you?
Okay, I genuinely, okay, thank you very much. I genuinely believe that you can grow younger with age rather than older with age. And I think you can trigger physiological changes in your body through your thoughts and feelings alone. And of course, I helped the universe along, so that's why I stopped drinking alcohol and decided to go vegetarian and so on. That was me doing what was in my power and then trusting that the universe will do the rest. But also, I mean, with the advances in medical science and so on, youthifying medicines and treatments and things like that are going to become a reality. So I believe that can happen. But I see myself doing this with much, much bigger audiences all around the world and having my life grow much more like the dream lifestyle. I want to be, speaking for me personally, I want to create on the same level that Steve Jobs and Richard Branson do. I want to have all of the material and worldly resources to be able to realize crazy visions that change the landscape of the world. The Superhero Factory is a gym where we teach people how to overcome their physical obstacles. Teach them how to overcome their mental blocks through physical obstacles. And I want to have superhero factories all around the world. And I want to make fitness fun again, where adults and kids and everybody in between and families can all learn and play and train together. So to have something that's inclusive to everybody rather than exclusive to some. And so I want that my success giving me the resources to be able to realize all of that into this world and to be able to share that with as many people as possible and help people on their own transformations. What I noticed when I delivered my TEDx was that people wrote me emails and said, I watched your talk and I quit my job, or I watched your talk and I proposed to my girlfriend, or I watched your talk and I bought a plane ticket. And it made me feel so amazing to have been able to contribute positively towards someone's life through a speech that I might have done, months before. And I realized that that's what it's all about, is really being able to help usher people towards their own greater levels of satisfaction. And we all want different things. So you getting your dream doesn't mean I won't get mine. You know what I mean? We can all have our dreams because everybody has their own vision of what heaven is. And that's what I want to do.
Hello.
We have some questions from the chat if you'll come here.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, the question is, what is the role and place of my current environment, my family, my colleagues, in all of these processes described? Some or all of them don't want to change anything.
Shall I be ready to change them all?
Okay, so to that question I would say, don't try and change anybody else, because that's you exerting your will over their free will. That doesn't work. You have dominion over yourself, your own thoughts, but not of others. As Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see. If that person wants to change, then they need to start to become the kinder, better, happier version of themselves, irrespective of the environment that they live within. And then the environment will begin to slowly reflect that. Or once their vibrations are so different, an opportunity will come up to take them out of that environment, because all of a sudden they are no longer in alignment. You can only ever draw that which you are vibrationally aligned to. So if that person's vibration grows far enough to expand beyond this environment, there'll be a plane ticket involved, there'll be a shift that will take them away, or the people around them will begin to change. It has to be. That's universal law.
One more question here.
One more question? What techniques would you recommend to motivate people in a team to stimulate the positive thinking and creation at work, and to decrease the criticism and negative thinking? I would make reward awards. So like whenever things go right in the company, you would have like a day to celebrate successes rather than a weekly meeting to say why things went wrong. So you focus on the positive rather than the negative. You make people feel good about what they do correctly, and that will encourage them and entice them to do more. when you penalize people and make them feel bad for something that they did, that does not motivate them to want to do more. In fact, quite the contrary, and what it can do is start to diminish the morale at work. As long as people are trying their best and they're rewarded and seen for their efforts, they will continue to produce more efforts. But ultimately, you want to, within a corporate sphere, eliminate any negative talk, any negative thinking, and try and shift that as much as possible into the positive, like we said, because especially when it comes to people bad-mouthing each other and so on, then that just becomes, political and starts to breed these negative feelings rather than the camaraderie and community, and it starts to become competition and rivalry, and that's a different kind of environment. I hope that answers your question.
Sorry,
Yeah.
You said that no negative comments, just only positive. Price only good things, don't mention bad things. But look, in corporate life, this is impossible. I mean, guys, everything is okay, that's fine, you're doing alright. I did too much better than the others, but okay, you do it okay. I don't know what's happening with the whole company. I mean, you're going to
Yeah, no. I don't mean that you just choose to ignore the way things are. I just mean you structure it constructively so that people are rewarded for their efforts, and that any kind of look at what can be done better becomes constructive rather than becomes like a telling off, like you shouldn't have done that and so on, right? It'd be like, guys, let's look at this as a team. Next time, this is what I want to see. This is what I want us to do more of. And the thing that happens in corporate structures is you have a really good day, and what do you do? Hey, high five, well done, and you forget about it. Something bad happens, something goes wrong, and you analyze it and pick it apart, and then who's responsible, and I want their head, right? It needs to be the other way around. All of that emotion and analytical thinking needs to happen when something goes right. So when something goes really good, you have an amazing day and you turn a huge profit, that's the day where you need to see who was there on that day, what happened on that day, what did we do differently that day that led to all of those results, and then start to go deeper into that. And when something bad happens, you acknowledge it. I'm not saying that you just like, hey, everything is wonderful all the time, but you acknowledge it, but you don't give it the same emotional treatment that you do when things go right. So instead of saying, that shouldn't have happened, say, guys, look, I know we're capable of much better. I know you can do better than that. I know you can do better than that. I believe in you. I believe in you. Come on, guys. Let's pull it together as a team. Remember that day when we did so great? That's what I want to see more of. That's what I know we're capable of. It's a very different structure than saying, you, blah, 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 blah. Yes?
Really, it looks like an internal infinite struggle for yourself. And at the moment, you haven't passed quite long road to be like the man that you are right now. And the question is, how much infinite power, internal power and effort it takes from you just right now to get the grateful for what you have right now. Just right now, how much power and internal effort it takes from you to be grateful for what you have?
None.
Well, you started your presentation with the St. Petersburg 2 weeks over here, and you moved to the presentation itself.
Yeah. Okay.
I believe in the circle that you have to move and struggle yourself inside you, and how much does it take from you right now?
Okay, so because I've become familiar with these processes over many years, remember, this isn't like an overnight switch. I'm not saying like tomorrow you're going to wake up and suddenly the whole world's going to be different, because there's always a buffer of time, and you need time that's going to change your brain chemistry and your physiology to reflect the new ideals that you're setting yourself. But these days, I've become much more aware of what I have to be grateful for, because I remember where I started. So all I need to do is just remember where I was a few years ago, selling computers and looking miserable and feeling miserable, and I already have things that I can immediately be grateful for. What I'm saying is, when you're in an environment that doesn't support that, it's a lot harder to do. So these manifestation techniques work wherever you are. But if you're feeling miserable and you open your window and everything looks miserable, it's going to be much harder to summon yourself. That's where the struggle comes in, to be able to push yourself to do this regardless to what you see around you. So that's what I'm saying is I empathize, because after being here for a couple of weeks in something that was meant to be a summer, from Bali, right? I come here and all of a sudden I start feeling pretty gray and I start feeling down. And I mean, in Bali, like you stop at a traffic light, people look over you and say, hello, how are you? Yeah, that doesn't really happen here. And so I know you're laughing, but it's like, shh, that would never happen. And so that started to take a toll on me. And I was like, oh my God, here I am about to give a talk about manifestation and positivity. And look, even me with all of my, developments in this particular field, I'm feeling negative. I'm feeling brought down. I'm feeling uninspired. I'm feeling demotivated. So I fully understand, and I can honestly say, yes, if your environment is not supportive of the positive shifts that you want to make, it is harder. But what's the alternative?
No, I mean, over here,
Which is this?
in this
Move to an environment that's better. Yeah, that's always a good one.
in this audience, there is quite an amount of rich people,
Uh-huh.
and quite an amount of people that have a very good relationship, but not one style. I mean, in circle, but some of them believe that, okay, all the relationships all the time are the same.
Mm-hmm.
So once I have my love, and after that I love that, and after that I once again find it, and all of them are the same, and they feel frustrated.
Okay.
And they understand that the circle to find inspiration again is much more harder.
Okay. Yeah.
And the same about money. Okay, 2 years ago I had a plan to have 100 million. Now I have it, and I don't want more.
Okay.
It's enough for living.
Mm-hmm.
It's much more harder to find inspiration inside and just move forward.
Okay.
What to do? G-A-A-A-R-T, right? Move the game.
Fine. So are you saying, okay, there's a couple of parts to that. First, I want to ask something. Are you saying that there's nothing that you want more of?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just asking.
If specifically you feel like your money game is on lock and everything is good there, then that's great. And then you can,
Find power.
then you have
Be
the
grateful for that.
yeah, exactly. And then you have the calm and the security that comes with that. And then you can use that money to create more of the things that you want in other areas of your life. Because what I've noticed with this is some people are rich, but they're unhealthy. Some people are really healthy, but they're alone. Some people are alone. You know what I mean? Like everybody, it's like life is a big pie, right? Full of all of these different slices. And some people are missing certain slices, right? And so the idea is you can use these techniques and tools and modes of thinking to be able to elevate your life in any one particular area. So that's on that point. Now, for people who keep experiencing the same thing, like I've had friends, girls who would say like, oh, I have this abusive boyfriend and he hit me or something like that. And then they get into another relationship and the same thing would happen again and the same thing would happen again. And they say, I keep attracting the same people, right? And this happens in many different spheres in life. So imagine that life is a test that you never fail. You just keep taking the test over and over and over again until you pass. So if you keep having the same experience, it's because there's a lesson in there that you're not learning. Once you learn that lesson, the experience will cease. And you'll go on to different experiences. And that's true of anything. If you look at your life and you see some pattern of something happening over and over again that you don't want to happen, that means there's a lesson there that you're not acknowledging. You're not learning what needs to be learned from that, and therefore it keeps repeating itself. The universe is like, hey, pay attention. No, keep doing the same thing. Okay, pay attention again. No, keep doing the same thing. Pay attention again. So if you say that a relationship goes in cycles, then there's something in that relationship that needs to be acknowledged and accepted and learned from in order for either that relationship to change or for another relationship to take its place. Mm-hmm. Yeah, or come to Bali and do a whole mode of different alternative healings, and we'll get you there super quick. Yes, you had a question before?
Oh, I hope.
You already answered.
Another question, Peter.
Yes.
You mentioned that you should follow your feeling.
Yes.
Emotion guidance system. And very often if you follow just emotions,
and then it can bring you to very dangerous things, actually, even to the crime.
Right.
So what's the balance? How to balance this with your mind?
Okay. There's a difference between emotionally responding and emotionally reacting. So if you have a stress, something that happens, right, and you feel an emotional response, like either you're driving a car, somebody like driving in front of you, and your response is to go and kill them, that doesn't mean that that is something, I just followed my feelings, is what Tah Riq said. You know what I mean? It's not about that. It's when you have a big decision that you need to make in life, right? Not something that happens under duress or through panic. Because what happens then is you're triggering your limbic system and your fight or flight mode, and your brain goes into reptile mode and either says, like, do I fight or do I run away? That's a very, very different kind of mechanism. This is more like, is this person right for me? You know what? I feel like I'll really prosper with this company, but they're just starting up and they have nothing to, they have no proof. But I just feel really good about them. Meanwhile, I have this other offer for this really big firm, but I don't know, something about it doesn't feel right. That's the time that I'm saying follow your emotions in moments like that, not in panic or stress or duress. I think, and I've learned this, emails are best responded to rather than reacted to. So if you get some kind of unsettling news, sit on it and wait if you still feel the same way. So there's a difference between responding and reacting, for sure. It's more about those decisions where you feel like you're taking a risk, but ultimately it's for your greater good. Or you don't know why, but something about it feels right. Those are the moments where you listen to your inner guidance system. And the more you do that, the more it'll go, finally, some acknowledgement, and it'll start to speak to you more loudly and more easily. Yes?
Well, actually, it's not a question, it's just an idea. It struck me when I put your comment with your question. Actually, there's lots of companies invest lots of money on making like corporate people even see that in a certain way. Monitoring the results or whatsoever, like interacting in a certain way which the company feels more productive. I mean, so I've adapted this manifestation theory because that's really difficult when you are in a cultural setting, under pressure, in a corporate world. So have in mind that you have to restructure the wording in a way that it sounds like manifestations of what I'm saying is the future. It's really absolutely difficult. But if you just start training people to do that, that might become a habitual thought. And when it can't become a habitual thought, then it might be just a product that could be demanded.
I think it boils down to a question of empowerment. If people feel like all they are is subordinate to a system where all the rules and structures are so rigid and regulated that all they can do is either abide by it or leave, then it creates one kind of culture. If, however, you create a culture that empowers people, that champions people's ideas and initiative and rewards them for their innovation and says, hey, think of a new way of doing this, and if it's good, we'll go with your idea. When people feel empowered and to have creative input, then it dramatically changes the culture. So it's not about just changing language to reflect manifestation. What you're talking about is kind of culture hacking. And I think that all comes down to the empowerment of the team. When the team really feel like they're together in a team, moving towards a grander purpose and a grander vision, when they feel like they are getting a sense of increase and more from being there, then you will see more out of them. And I found within the corporate structures that I've encountered that when people are empowered, then they start coming up with their best innovations. And someone like Richard Branson does this throughout Virgin. He says, like, anybody has a good idea, if it's good enough, we'll roll it out through the company. So now everybody's excited, everybody's enticed to create things for the company. And so the company grows as a result. And because people are happier to be there, they're more productive and more efficient with their time while they're there. So it all becomes a positive spiral towards the betterment of the company, ultimately. But if people feel bad about being there, they're not going to give their best.
just can't do it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But you can still look at the terminology and language that's being used throughout the company and say, does reading this make me feel good? Does this make me feel like I want to give more? Or does this make me feel like retracting, withdrawing, and doing less? And if the answer is the latter, then maybe you want to look at the way that language is perceived by others. Anyone else? Anything from the web? Are we good?
We're done.
Yeah?
We had a beautiful life.
Okay. Спасибо большое.